Hello, Eastside Youth. Hopefully, you guys are doing well, enjoying the sunshine today. Um, this is your midweek check-in. I know we've got um, some stuff coming up at the end of this week. Stay tuned for some possible changes on that. We're still waiting to get some more information, but we might have to have a change to Saturday. So I will keep you guys updated as soon as we know more in regards to that. But yeah, that said, we're gonna jump in today. We're gonna keep going through Galatians. We're gonna look at Galatians chapter 1. We're gonna do verses 6 through 9. It says, "I am astonished that you're so." So remember, last week we talked about the Galatian church, and Paul's writing to them, and one of the things he's writing to them about is he's writing to correct some of their thinking, to correct uh, some false teaching that rose up in the church. And so this week Paul's going to begin to address that with the Galatians. He says, "I'm astonished that you're so quickly deserting him who called you in the grace of Christ and are turning to a different gospel. Not that there's another one, but that there are some who trouble you and want to distort the gospel of Christ. But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach to you a gospel contrary to the one we preach to you, let him be accursed. And as we've said before, so now I say again, if anyone is preaching to you a gospel contrary to the one you received, let him be accursed." And so in this, the Galatian church had been led astray, and they had deserted the gospel that they had come to Christ um, in. So the gospel just simply means the good news of Jesus. And that good news is that Jesus has come to fulfill the requirements, died on a cross to pay the price for our sins so that we might have a relationship with God. And then he rose again and defeated that sin and death, so that way we have a future hope with God as well. That is like bare bones, the good news. And so Paul is saying that though the Galatians um, at some point had believed that, they're now in some way, and we're going to talk about what was happening, but they're now in some way moving away from that. And they're Paul says that they're moving to another gospel. And then he takes this side note. He's like, "There's not more than one gospel, guys. There's only one good news of Jesus. Like, and if it's not that good news, it's probably not good news." Um, and in the end of verse 7, uh, he says that the gospel of Jesus is the good news. That is it. That he ties that to the person of Christ. Um, and then he talks about there's these people who have distorted the good news, and they've made the good news about something else. They made the good news harder to get. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. Or they've made the good news um, not centered on Jesus. Um, and to do so, Paul later he writes that to do that, he says that that brings accursedness on them. Um, and that is like, we're going to talk about what I think he's saying with that, but that accursedness is this idea. Um, I think Paul's saying that they're going to have to answer for the things that they're teaching. That they're going to have to live up to the standard that they've been teaching. So if they're teaching this false gospel, that is the hope, that is the good news, then Paul's saying then they're going to have to put their stock in that good news, and to do so would lead someone to be accursed. Um, so we're not going to talk about verse 10. We're going to look at that next week. But from here, what essentially happens and what we're going to go into is the next thing that Paul does is Paul has to give a defense for himself because he comes out swinging pretty hard. He comes out on the offensive saying, these people who are teaching you this other gospel, they are teaching you something that is false. They're going to have to answer for it, and they have led you astray. So that's how Paul begins his letter. And so next week we're going to look at Paul kind of has to defend himself a little bit, and we're also going to talk about how like he took some flack for coming out and saying like, hey, you guys are teaching something that is not real. Um, and all that said, I got two. One is a reminder, and one is a kind of an encouragement, and it's kind of a reminder, but it's also something to take with you. The first is the reminder that there are still clowns today who do this. And they are clowns. They're teaching something that is contrary to the gospel, and they're teaching it as if it is the good news. And usually you can snuff it out because it's usually it's not just Jesus. It's Jesus and something. And usually, whatever that and something is, that has been put there in order to please people, which is exactly what Paul says is happening in Galatians here. They've done this, they've added this thing to please people. For the case of the Galatians, they were being told that the people who were not Jewish had to enter into the Jewish circumcision covenant and follow all the Jewish dietary laws in order to fully be saved. And so Paul's coming out saying, whoever's telling you that's wrong. You're saved by Christ, not by what you eat. It's essentially what he's getting on with here. And so these clowns who do this type of stuff are still around today. Um, and that is the other part is why it's important to stick and to know our gospel, to know our God, because then like you you can smell the turd. Like it's kind of like when you got a piece of rotten food and somebody drops it somewhere, eventually it starts to stink. And the stink is what helps you find it. And the quicker that we know what it should smell like or what it should look like, what the gospel should be, the quicker we're going to be able to find the turd in the situation. The other part about sticking to the basics of the gospel, we're going to see the importance of that next week, is when we stick to the good news of Jesus, when we get that right and we hold firm to it and we're not trying to add to it in any way, then when we take flack or when somebody says that we are, whatever, or is upset that we have challenged false teaching, when we stick to the basics of the gospel, we can stand up under that. We can point to the work of Christ as our good news, and we don't have to worry. And that's kind of what Paul is going to do, and we're going to look at that next week. I hope you guys are well. Just a reminder, we'll have Sunday morning youth on Sunday, and then no Sunday night because it's Father's Day. Go spend time with your families, with your dads or other folks in your life who pick up those roles for you guys. And we will then not be together the following Sunday. I will probably have a video of some sort in there just to have something to put out there. But we look forward to seeing you guys Friday for the paint day. Yeah, take care. We'll see you soon. Love you guys.